Rain poured down on the metal roofs of the city, making sharp sounds like broken glass. In the dark streets, traders closed their shops one by one, but not everyone went home. In a hidden corner, a strange auction was taking place. It was not for gold or jewels. It was for broken things. Old machines, scrap metal, and sometimes even living beings no one wanted anymore. On the wooden stage stood a girl. She was young, but her body looked old. Her legs were made of metal, rusted and weak, each movement making a painful screech. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and her eyes were full of fear. The crowd did not look at her like a person. They looked at her like junk. "Next item," the auctioneer shouted. "Rusted prosthetic legs with attached girl. Sold as scrap." The crowd laughed. Someone whistled. Another shouted, "I'll melt her down for parts." The girl shook her head, trembling. She wanted to scream, but her voice was dry, stuck in her throat. She remembered the day she once walked in the sun, before her legs began to rust. She had dreams once of being a dancer in her people's festivals, but when her parents died and no one cared for her, she was sold piece by piece until only her body remained. And now she was here in the junkyard auction. The bidding began. 5 credits, one man shouted. 6 credits, another answered, laughing. 7 credits, shouted a woman with grease on her hands. The girl's heart pounded. Was this the end? Would they cut her apart for wires and steel? She closed her eyes, praying it would be fast. Then suddenly a voice cut through the noise. 10 credits, it said. The crowd went silent. Heads turned. At the back of the room stood a tall figure. He wore a hood, rain dripping from his shoulders. His voice was calm, deep, and firm. Everyone knew at once he was not one of them. He was human. The auctioneer blinked. A human here? For junk? He laughed nervously. Very well. 10 credits. Do I hear 11? No one answered. The human's eyes burned under his hood, daring anyone to challenge him. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Nobody wanted trouble with his kind. Sold, the auctioneer shouted. The hammer fell and the girl's fate was sealed. 2 guards pushed her forward, shoving her into the mud. She winced as her rusted legs scraped against the ground. The human stepped closer. His boots were heavy, his steps slow. He reached down and lifted her chin. For the first time she saw his face, sharp, weathered, and full of something she had not seen in years. Pity. You're coming with me, he said softly. The girl tried to speak, but only coughed. Why? He did not answer. He pulled a small cloth from his pocket and covered her shoulders. The crowd muttered. Some whispered, "Why waste credits on junk?" Others spat on the ground. The human ignored them. He carried her away from the stage, his steps steady while her heart raced. She could not understand it. No one had looked at her with kindness in years. No one had spoken to her as if she were still alive, but questions filled her mind. Who was this human? Why did he buy her? And what did he want from a broken alien girl with rusted legs? The junkyard gates closed behind them, and the night swallowed their figures. For the first time in years, the girl felt a spark of something inside her chest. It was not fear. It was hope. The rain did not stop that night. It followed them like a curtain of silver, hiding their shadows. The girl's weak legs dragged in the mud, and each step made her gasp. The human did not leave her behind. He walked slowly, keeping pace with her as if he understood her pain. She could not believe it. In her world, no one slowed down for the weak. They left the weak to rot. Yet this human, tall and silent, acted differently. Finally, they reached a small shelter at the edge of the city. It was not a palace, not even a fine house. Just a simple metal hut with broken lights and a furnace that glowed faintly in the corner. Still, compared to the junkyard, it felt like heaven. The human opened the door. Warmth touched her cold skin. He guided her inside and helped her sit on a wooden chair. The chair creaked under her weight, but it held. The girl stared at him. She wanted to ask questions, but her throat was dry. He noticed. Without a word, he poured water into a cup and placed it in her hands. She drank slowly, her cracked lips trembling. Why did you buy me?" she finally whispered. The human leaned against the wall. His face was calm, but his eyes held a storm. "Because you are not junk," he said. His words hit her like fire. Not junk. She had not heard such words in years. Even her own people had called her worthless when her legs stopped working properly. I cannot work," she said. "My legs, they are broken. Rusted, useless." He stepped closer. Legs can be fixed. But a soul, a heart, those cannot be replaced. The girl's eyes widened. No trader, no junkyard master, no one had spoken to her this way. She did not know whether to trust him or run. But where would she run? He crouched before her, looking at her legs. The metal was cracked, covered with rust and dirt. Bolts were missing, wires loose. Any mechanic would have thrown them away. "I've repaired machines worse than this," he murmured. "You'll walk again?" She shook her head. "No one wants to fix me. They said I'm not worth the parts." He looked at her firmly. They were wrong. For the first time in years, tears filled her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, afraid to look weak. But the human did not laugh at her tears. Instead, he placed a small blanket over her shoulders. "You're safe here tonight," he said. Rest, but rest was impossible. Her mind was full of questions. Who was he? Why would a human care about a broken alien girl? Was this kindness real, or did he have hidden plans? She lay on a thin mattress in the corner, pretending to sleep, while the human worked at a table. His hands moved with skill, repairing some broken device. Sparks flew in the dim light. He worked silently, as if he carried the weight of 1,000 memories. The girl watched him through half-closed eyes. She noticed the scars on his arms, the tiredness in his shoulders. He was not rich, not powerful, yet something about him felt stronger than all the cruel traders combined. The storm outside grew louder. Thunder shook the walls, but inside the hut a strange calm settled. For the first time in her life, the girl did not feel like scrap metal. She felt seen. Still, one fear burned inside her. What if tomorrow he regretted buying her? What if he decided she truly was useless? Her heart beat fast as she closed her eyes fully. She whispered one fragile word to herself before sleep finally claimed her. Hope. The girl woke to the smell of burning metal. For a moment, fear gripped her chest. She thought she was back in the junkyard where fire pits melted broken bodies and parts. But when her eyes opened, she saw the human sitting at his workbench, sparks dancing around him. He was repairing something. His hands were steady, his eyes sharp, focused like a hunter. Every movement seemed practiced, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. The girl sat up slowly, her rusted legs groaning. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders, watching him. The question she had carried all night returned, stronger than ever. "Why?" she whispered. The human looked up, surprised. "Why what? Why save me?" Her voice trembled. "You could have bought parts. You could have left me to rot. Why spend credits on me?" For a moment he said nothing. His tools clicked softly as he set them aside. He turned to face her, his scarred face lit by the glow of the furnace. "Because I know what it feels like," he said, "to be thrown away." The girl's breath caught. His words felt heavy, as if each one carried a wound. She wanted to ask more, but before she could, he rose from his chair and walked toward her. "Show me your legs," he said gently. Her instinct screamed to pull back. She had been mocked, kicked, even beaten because of her broken legs. Showing them felt like stripping away her last defense. But the human's eyes were not cruel. They were steady, patient, waiting. Slowly, she extended her legs. The metal creaked, flakes of rust falling onto the floor. She lowered her gaze, ashamed. The human crouched before her. He touched the edge of one prosthetic carefully, not with disgust but with care, like a healer touching a wound. "These were built with old tech," he murmured. "No wonder they failed. But I can fix them. Maybe not perfect, but strong enough to walk again." Her eyes widened. "Walk, truly?" "Yes," he said firmly. "But it will hurt. I'll need to replace the joints, clean the wires, maybe even rebuild parts from scratch. It won't be easy." Her heart pounded. She had long forgotten the dream of walking without pain. To even imagine it felt dangerous, like chasing a star too far away. But the fire in his voice made her believe, even if just for a moment. The human stood. "Eat something first," he said. He placed a small plate of bread and cooked roots in front of her. The smell was plain but warm, better than anything she had eaten in years. She took a bite, her hands trembling. As she ate, he worked again. She watched as he gathered scrap metal from boxes, wires from broken machines, and tools she did not recognize. Every piece he touched seemed to have a purpose. The girl's eyes softened. She had seen mechanics before, but none with this much care. To him, even broken metal was not useless. He treated each part like it had value. Hours passed. The storm outside faded, but inside, the sound of his tools filled the silence. The girl felt something strange stir inside her chest. a warmth she had thought was dead. Could it be trust? When he finally stopped, he turned back to her. His hands were covered in grease, but his eyes shone. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow we begin the real repairs." Her throat tightened. Tomorrow. A word she had once hated because it only brought more pain. But for the first time in years, tomorrow sounded different. It sounded like a promise. She lay back on the mattress, staring at the ceiling, her mind full of questions. Who was this human? What scars did he carry? And could he really give her back the gift she thought she had lost forever? As sleep pulled her under, one thought burned brighter than all the rest. If he can fix my legs, maybe he can fix me too. Morning light slipped through the cracks of the metal hut. The girl stirred awake, the blanket sliding off her shoulders. For a second, she forgot where she was. Then she saw him, already working at his table, tools spread out, scraps neatly arranged. The human had not rested much, her heart raced. Today was the day. He turned when he heard her move. "Good, you're awake," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried weight. "We start now." The girl sat up, her body tense. She glanced at her rusted legs. Fear clawed at her stomach. "Will it hurt?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "But pain is part of healing. Do you trust me?" The word struck her. Trust. She had never trusted anyone, not the traders, not the mechanics, not even her own kin after they abandoned her. But something about this man, with his scarred hands and steady eyes, made her nod. "I trust you," she whispered. The human prepared a small space near the furnace. He laid down cloth and placed his tools, cutters, welders, wires glowing faintly blue. He guided her gently to the space and helped her lie down. "Stay still," he said. She clenched her fists. Every nerve in her body screamed to run, but she forced herself to stay. The human began with the first leg. He pried open the rusted joint, and the sound of cracking metal echoed in the hut. The girl bit her lip until blood touched her tongue. Her body shook, but she did not scream. "You're strong," he said quietly as he worked. His hands were steady, careful, as if he feared hurting her more than she already hurt. Still, the pain was fire. Sparks flew as he cut away corroded parts. She felt every jolt, every pull. Tears slipped down her cheeks. At one point, she gasped, "Stop, please stop." The human paused. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. "I know it hurts," he said. "But if we stop now, you'll never walk again. Endure a little longer." His voice was not commanding. It was steady, warm, like a shield against the storm of pain. She nodded weakly. "Do it." Hours passed. He replaced bolts, cleaned wires, and welded new supports. The smell of burning metal mixed with the salt of her tears. She floated between agony and faintness, but the human never left her side. Finally, he stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "First one done," he said. The girl opened her eyes slowly. Her leg felt different, heavier, but also stronger. She could not move it yet, but deep inside she sensed something new. The human moved to her second leg. This time she braced herself. The pain was still sharp, but now she knew it had purpose. Each spark meant progress, not destruction. When at last he finished, her body was trembling, drained. The human covered her with the blanket again. His own face was pale, his arms heavy from hours of work. "It's not perfect," he said, "but it's a start. Rest now. Tomorrow you'll try to stand." Her breath caught. Stand? She had not stood without pain in years. The thought was terrifying and wonderful. She reached out with shaking hands and caught his wrist. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked again, voice breaking. For a moment, silence filled the hut. His eyes darkened, shadows flickering in their depths. "Because once," he said slowly, "someone saved me when everyone else thought I was worthless. And I failed them. I swore never to fail again." The girl's eyes widened. His words carried grief like a wound that never healed. She wanted to ask more, but her strength gave out. Her eyes closed and she slipped into sleep. The human sat beside her, staring at her repaired legs glowing faintly in the firelight. He clenched his fist. This time he whispered to himself, "I won't let hope die." Outside, the wind howled, carrying the scent of storms and danger. Inside, the first spark of change had been lit. The storm had passed. Morning light spilled across the metal hut, sharp and clear. The girl blinked awake, her body still heavy from pain. But something was different. Her legs no longer felt like dead weight. They felt alive. The human stood nearby, sharpening a tool. He turned when she stirred. "Today," he said, "you try to stand." Her heart raced. Stand? The word felt unreal. For years she had been trapped, crawling or dragged like broken cargo. To stand again sounded like a dream too fragile to touch. I'm scared, she admitted. Good, he said. Fear means you understand what's at stake. Now use that fear to fight. He helped her sit upright. Her legs glinted faintly, the rust gone, the joints rebuilt with new metal. She stared at them, hardly believing they were hers. Slowly, he said, guiding her hands to the table. Use your arms for balance. Trust your legs. She pressed her palms against the wood. Her legs trembled, groaning under her weight. Her chest tightened. Memories of falling, of being laughed at, clawed at her mind. I can't, she gasped. Yes, you can, the human said sharply. His voice cut through her fear like a blade. You're not junk anymore. Prove it. Something inside her snapped. She clenched her teeth, pushed harder, and rose. Her knees shook violently. Pain burned, but it was different now. Not the hopeless pain of rust, but the sharp ache of healing. For the first time in years, she was standing. A sob escaped her lips. She gripped the table, tears blurring her vision. I'm up, she whispered. The human's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Yes, and tomorrow you'll walk. But before she could answer, a sound shattered the fragile moment. A bang, then another. Someone was pounding on the hut's door. The girl froze. Fear rushed through her veins. Who is that? The human's eyes narrowed. He motioned for her to stay silent. The pounding grew louder, angry voices rising outside. Open up, a rough voice shouted. We know you took the junkyard scrap. Her blood ran cold. They had come for her. The human moved quickly, grabbing a weapon from the corner. A long steel rod sharpened at one end. He glanced at her once, his face hard as stone. Stay down. Don't move. She sank back to the floor, trembling. The pounding turned to kicking. The door rattled. You think you can steal from us, human? Another voice growled. That thing belongs to the junkyard. The human's grip on the rod tightened. His voice, when he spoke, was low and dangerous. She is not junk. And she belongs to no one. With a final crash, the door burst open. 3 figures stormed in. Junkyard traders, their clothes filthy, their hands armed with blades and chains. Their eyes glowed with greed when they saw her. There she is, one hissed. The rusted girl, Worth more melted down than in his hands. The girl's breath came in short gasps. Her legs trembled, still weak. She could not run, could not fight. Helplessness clawed at her again. But the human stepped forward, blocking their path. His shadow fell across her like a shield. You'll leave now, he said, or you'll leave in pieces. The traders laughed, circling him. 1 human against 3 of us? You'll die. The girl's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to give up. But another voice whispered inside her. His voice. You're not junk anymore. Prove it. Her hands tightened on the edge of the table. For the first time she wanted to fight for herself. The room grew tense, the furnace flames flickering as if sensing the storm about to break. 3 traders, 1 human, and a girl learning to stand again. The battle was about to begin. The air inside the hut turned heavy. The furnace hissed. Shadows flickered across the walls, and 3 traders circled like wolves. The girl pressed her back against the wall, her repaired legs shaking. She wanted to scream, but fear locked her throat. The human didn't flinch. His scarred hands gripped the steel rod firmly. His eyes never left the traders. He looked like a man carved from stone, calm but ready to break anything in his way. The first trader lunged, swinging a chain. The human moved fast, sidestepping, and the chain cracked against the wall. Sparks flew. With a sharp twist, the human rammed the steel rod into the trader's ribs. The man gasped and fell, groaning on the floor. The second trader roared and swung a blade. Metal clashed as the human blocked it, sparks showering between them. Their strength was uneven. The trader was bigger, stronger, but the human fought with precision. Each strike aimed to end the fight quickly. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to close her eyes, but something inside forced her to watch. The human fought not for himself, but for her. For the broken girl everyone else had thrown away. The third trader moved toward her. His greedy eyes locked on her legs. Scrap or not, you're worth something, he hissed, reaching for her. Fear surged. Her legs trembled, not ready for running. But then she remembered the human's words. You're not junk anymore. Prove it. She grabbed the nearest thing, an old metal pipe lying near the furnace. Her arms shook, but she lifted it high. When the traitor leaned closer, she swung with all her strength. The pipe smashed into his shoulder. He stumbled back with a curse, more shocked than hurt. The human glanced at her, his eyes burning with approval. "Good," he growled, before driving his rod into the second traitor's knee. The man screamed, collapsing. The third traitor snarled and lunged at her again, this time furious. She swung the pipe wildly, clumsy but desperate. He caught her arm, twisting it. Pain shot through her body. She cried out, almost dropping the weapon. But before he could strike, the human was there. His rod slammed across the traitor's face. The man flew backward, crashing into the wall. Blood streaked his mouth. Silence filled the hut, broken only by the groans of the beaten traitors. The furnace light glowed against the human's sweat-covered face. He stood tall, chest heaving, eyes sharp as steel. "You'll crawl back to your junkyard," he said coldly. "If you return, I'll bury you in it." The traitors, broken and beaten, dragged themselves toward the door. Hatred filled their eyes, but fear chained their steps. They vanished into the storm outside, leaving only silence behind. The girl dropped the pipe, her body shaking. She slid to the floor, her repaired legs quivering under her. Her chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. "You fought," the human said, walking to her side. His voice was softer now, almost proud. "Even if you were afraid, you fought." Her eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared," she whispered. I thought I'd fail." He crouched, meeting her gaze. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to fight even when fear screams at you to run." She stared at him, those words sinking deep. Courage. She had never thought herself capable of it. Yet tonight she had stood, she had swung, she had resisted. The human placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Rest now. Tomorrow we'll train. Your legs are not just for walking. They're for standing against the world." Her tears turned into a small, trembling smile. For years no one had believed in her. But this human, a stranger, saw more than her broken parts. The furnace crackled. The night outside was silent again. But both of them knew danger wasn't gone. The junkyard masters would not forget this humiliation. They would return, but for now inside the little hut, something greater than fear was alive. For the first time the girl felt not like a prisoner of rust, but like a warrior being born. The night after the fight was restless. The girl lay awake, her new legs aching but alive. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the traitors' faces full of hatred. They would not stop. They would come again, and this time they would bring more. At dawn, the human stood outside the hut, sharpening his steel rod. His face was calm, but his eyes were watchful. "They'll return," he said. "The junkyard masters don't forgive humiliation." The girl swallowed hard. "Then what will we do?" He looked at her with steady eyes. "We don't wait for them. We show them what you've become." Her chest tightened. Fear and excitement mixed inside her. She touched her legs. They still trembled, but they no longer felt useless. "You want me to fight them?" she asked. "No," he said firmly. "I want you to prove you're alive, that you're more than what they tried to make you." His words burned like fire in her chest. For years she had been dragged through mud, called junk, treated as worthless. Today that would end. By midday the junkyard was loud with shouting. Traders gathered, laughing, sharpening blades, and then silence fell as the human walked into their ground with the girl at his side. Gasps echoed. "The rusted girl? Walking?" someone muttered. "She should have been melted." Another spat. The junkyard master stepped forward, his body heavy with greed. His eyes narrowed. "You dare return what is mine?" "She is not yours," the human said, voice strong. "And she is not junk," the master sneered. "Then prove it. Let the scrap walk in front of us all. Let her stand if she can." The crowd roared with laughter. The girl's hands shook. Every eye burned into her. Memories of shame rushed back, being sold, mocked, pushed into mud. Her legs trembled. Doubt whispered, "You'll fall. You'll fail." Then she felt his hand brush hers. Just a small touch, but it carried weight. "Remember," the human whispered. "Courage is fighting even when fear screams." Her chest filled with fire. She lifted her chin and took a step forward. The crowd gasped. Another step. Her knees wobbled, but she held firm. A third step. This time her stride was stronger, the rebuilt joints holding her weight. She walked into the center of the circle. Her heart pounded like thunder, but she did not stop. She stood tall, scars and rust replaced by fire and steel. The junkyard master's sneer faltered. The crowd's laughter faded into silence. The girl raised her voice, shaking but clear. "I am not scrap. I am not junk. I am alive. Her words rang like a bell through the air. For a moment, even the cruel traders looked uncertain. The master growled, furious. She is nothing. He drew a blade and charged at her. The human moved to protect her, but the girl lifted her arm. No, let me. Her legs burned with power as she braced herself. When the master swung, she stepped aside with surprising speed, the rebuilt joints moving smooth and strong. His blade cut only air. The crowd gasped again. The girl lifted the same pipe she had once used in fear. Now she swung it with strength. It cracked against the master's wrist, sending his blade flying. He fell to his knees, stunned. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some shouted, some fled, others stared in disbelief. The human's voice rose above them all. You see, she is no junk. She is proof that hope cannot be rusted. The girl stood beside him, her chest heaving but her eyes bright. For the first time, she felt not like a broken machine but like someone whole. The traders stepped back. No one dared move against her again. The master, clutching his arm, spat in the dirt and fled. The girl dropped the pipe, her hands trembling. She turned to the human. I did it, she whispered. He nodded, his hard face softening. You didn't just stand. You rose. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but this time they were not of shame. They were of freedom. The junkyard that once mocked her now stood silent, watching as she walked out. Not as scrap. Not as property, but as someone reborn. And beside her, the human walked too, silent but proud. Together, they left the rust behind.